Section 4 of Dread Flame of Montauk by Henry Hasse. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Cinda J.M. Section 4. He found the shop in a twisting little street that seemed to cringe from the rest of the city. The insignia of Jal Thurlow was still upon the door, and Ketrik breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, after persistent knocking, the door opened a trifle, and Ketrik saw the wizened little face of Jal Thurlow. The shopkeeper's eyes were dark with suspicion. "I was told I would find one Jal Thurlow here," Ketrik said glibly. "I come with news of a secret shipment. Rare Caledonus furs from the plains of Io." "At this ungodly hour?" Thurlow grumbled sleepily. "It is the proper hour for such matters, thou sulky one. Permit me to enter now. I take my news elsewhere." Thurlow opened the door, and Ketrik slipped into a dark room that smelled of spices, perfumes, and a miscellany of objects from the far planets. He followed the little Martian through the shop and along a dim corridor until they arrived at the living quarters. There, under brilliant light, Thurlow faced him. "Who sent you?" Ketrik answered carefully. He knew this little man carried a needle gun in his sleeve and had used it on occasion. "No one. I merely seek haven here. I once saved your life on Deimos. You remember it?" Thurlow started visibly. "Ketrik? Is it really you? But no, it cannot be." "It's Ketrik, all right, but Koshan for the time being. Remember this?" He bared one arm and revealed a long, jagged scar from shoulder to elbow. He further proved his identity by recounting the adventure on Deimos many years ago, in which he'd received this scar while saving Thurlow's life. "I must remind you of the Martian blood debt," he ended. "I saved your life, and it is forfeit to me until you repay." "I have not forgotten." He looked at the other's torn, bleeding legs. "Come, man, let me dress those wounds. Then you can tell me why you were here." Ketrik recounted part, but not all. When he had finished impressing upon Thurlow the urgent need to get inside Darvajo's laboratories, the little Martian shook his head. "I fear it cannot be done. That part of the city is strictly forbidden. Vajo's palace is there, and the homes of his scientists, all surrounded by the wall. Even the few servants who were permitted to pass in and out occasionally are painstakingly examined." "I've got to get in there," Ketrik reiterated, "and I intend to." "Wish I could help you. It might be for the best. Darvajo is becoming as hated as he is feared. Yes, even by his own people. Something monstrous and mad is going on in those laboratories." "What can you tell me about it?" Thurlow's eyes became dark and his voice lowered. "Only this. Frequently, in the dark of night, a faint greenish glow comes over the city. It only lasts a few seconds, then withdraws into a pillar of concentrated fire directly over the laboratories. Then it seems to extend itself, lashing outward into space." "Greenish fire!" Ketrik exclaimed. "Do you mean electronic power, Thurlow?" "No, not that at all. I'm no scientist, but I know this is cold light. It's different. Devilish. You may laugh at me, Ketrik, but I will say it. These radiations seem alien to this world and to this universe. They seem almost alive." But Ketrik did not laugh. He was remembering the mad survivor of a missing Earth spacer. He was remembering the poor gibbering devil he had seen but recently in the tunnel. He thought of these and other things and felt the hair at the back of his neck begin to rise. "Why," Thurlow was grumbling, "did Vajo have to come here to conduct his devilish experiments? Why could he not have stayed in the northern capital?" "Because here he's in close contact with the Rajaks," Ketrik said experimentally, and watched for the little Martian's reaction. "Yes." Thurlow nodded. "I can tell you something about that, too. Under the treaty, the Rajaks are allowed access to Turabek, or, if they wish, other cities to the north. Vajo has even built a magnificent temple here where they can carry on their own ritualistic worship. Well, I've seen those black caravans come into the city, quite a number of them in the past weeks, but one sees little of them afterwards. Of course, they may be shunted further north. No. Ketrik smacked a fist into his palm. No, Thurlow. For some reason, they are needed here. It's all part of Vajo's plan. I knew it. I care little about the Rajeks, Thurlow shrugged. It is well that they disappear. Ketrik thought differently. He lay awake in the little cubicle to which Thurlow assigned him, his mind too turbulent for sleep. The pattern, though still vague, was beginning to take shape. At least he had gained entrance to Turabek. Tomorrow he would make a short tour about the city, try to formulate a plan. At last his tired muscles relaxed, and he dropped into an untroubled sleep. It was high noon when Jal Thurlow wakened him. The little Martian seemed strangely perturbed. "My friend, there is one at the alley entrance who asks for you." "For me?" Ketrik was up instantly and began dressing with deft, precise fingers. Who else would know that he had arrived in Turabek? But his mind was put at ease when he reached the rear entrance. Standing before him was a somewhat bedraggled, but still grinning figure of Arnaudo, the caravan leader. "Did I not say, Koshan, that the day would soon come when you could repay me? I remembered well your mentions of this shop." And when Ketrik hesitated, he went on, "Well, O fugitive of the dark tunnels, am I not permitted entrance?" "Come in, quickly." Arnaudo waved a hand cheerily. "There's no need for alarm. I entered through the city gates as I said I would. The others have gone to the temple, but not I. I will need a place." Thurlow frowned. Ketrik said, "It's all right, Thurlow. Arnaudo's a friend of mine. Please allow him to stay. I owe a debt too." He turned to Arnaudo. "But listen, don't draw the specials here. I can't afford that." "I am caution itself, my friend. I too have a mission here. Perhaps one night's sanctuary is all I shall ask, and your debt is paid." The black still smiled, with all but his eyes. Behind them, Ketrik detected a hardness and cunning, together with a warning not to ask questions. Ketrik had no intention of doing that, but he made a resolution to watch this one. If their paths here should ever chance to cross, Arnaudo would be a tough one indeed. Ketrik left him in Thurlow's capable but somewhat reluctant hands while he prepared himself for his tour of the city. From the street of the Double Moon, he emerged into the broader thoroughfare. Turabek was the metropolis of the south, boasting of theaters, cafes, and shopping centers, as well as a magnificent spaceport. Ketrik gave but a glance to the overhead monocars, preferring to stroll leisurely. He found the people, the streets, the queer facaded buildings much the same as he'd known them years ago. There was one startling difference. At the end of this main thoroughfare, a forbidding wall reared up to extend out of sight in either direction. That was the wall around the laboratories. Ketrik could not possibly see what lay beyond. He made his way slowly in that direction. Thurlow had furnished him with apparel that stamped him as a prosperous, somewhat foppish Martian, perhaps a mercantile buyer. He stopped once, listening to news blaring from a public telesystem, but it contained nothing of consequence to him. No mention of Darvajo or local events. A few minutes later, he entered a tiny shop dealing in rare spices and tobaccos. He purchased a vile but expensive Venusian cigar. He lighted and drew upon it with evident relish. "Ah, we do not find these often in Rocktal," he said to the proprietor, naming a city far to the north. "Turabek has its advantages after all." "You are a stranger here?" "Yes, I have just arrived. I am a buyer for Varix." He saw the man was impressed. "I find Turabek a fascinating city, but tell me, the high wall to the east of here, what is it? They would not allow me to pass." "And no wonder, sir. Those walls surround the palace grounds and laboratories of our emperor." "To be sure, I should have known that." Ketrik smiled, and when he spoke again, there was the slightest hint of mockery. "Ah, but you of Turabek should be flattered that our emperor chose your city to carry on his noble experiments." The man hesitated, glanced around, but decided to speak. "I think you know we are not fortunate, sir. What Darvajo is doing may be for the best, but if only we were informed." Ketrik raised his brows in puzzlement, and the other went on. Then you do not know of it." "But of course not. You have just arrived." "Well, sir, it is to come again tonight, at 2 hours past the midnight. This morning's telenews warned all residents to stay in their homes at that hour, and we know what that means." Ketrik knew too. The green radiance which Thurlow had spoken of tonight. He wanted to observe that display. Then he thought of the Rajaks, the caravan of 200 which had just that day entered the city. His mind leapt. Was it mere coincidence that upon this very day? He said carelessly, "I have heard that more of those wretched Rajaks were permitted entrance this morning. It seems a stupid thing, this treaty which allows the outlanders to pollute our cities." "It would seem so, yes, but Darvajo is cunning in his way. Perhaps the blacks are shipped north to work the uranium mines." Ketrik dared to ask no more questions. He left the shop and continued his stroll toward the wall. When he came within a block of it, he could see that it wasn't stone, as he had supposed. It was heavy mesh duraplon, reaching 20 feet high, and still higher were the electronic control towers. A touch of a button would throw any section of this wall into flaming, deadly radiance. Here was a formidable barrier. Ketrik frowned, looking at it, but he didn't dare linger there too long. He turned back, was crossing the street, when he heard a warning shout and then a clarion blast. He leapt to the curb just as a vehicle swept by. It swerved sharply to avoid hitting him. 2 others followed. They were the 3-wheeled electronic-powered cars native to Mars. From the rear seat of the second car, a girl's face peered out, a bit frightened at the near accident. A golden face, lovely, with copper-hued hair tumbling in waves to her shoulders, and eyes large and blue as asterines. This much Ketrik saw before the cars were gone. He turned and stared. A section of the duraplon wall slid upward, and the cars passed through. All except the last one. It turned sharply and came hurtling back to where Ketrik stood. A pompous Martian climbed out, strode angrily up to him. "You dolt! The Princess Piranha might have been injured. What were you doing here anyway, so near the grounds? Do you not know it is forbidden?" The Princess Piranha. Yes, now Ketrik remembered. Darvajo had a daughter. She had completed her early education at one of Earth's best schools. That was all of 10 years ago, but she had been a pretty child even then. "Well, answer me, or shall I take you to the guards for questions?" Ketrik came out of his reverie and looked at this man. A high servant at the palace, probably, judging from his manner. Ketrik bowed coldly. "I was not aware of the restricted area. I am but newly arrived in Turabek and have found your city most charming. Until now." There was the correct amount of annoyance in his voice, plus a subtle warning. "You wish to see my credentials, sir?" The other's manner changed. For the first time he seemed to notice Ketrik's dignified dress and manner. He hesitated. "I don't suppose that'll be necessary, sir. 1,000 pardons for speaking so hastily, but our nerves have been on edge, you know, ever since the rumor that some of the Sarala would attempt to enter the city." "My dear man, I am sure our Emperor's splendid guard can deal capably with these Sarala. I will bid you good day now. I have yet to visit your charming shops." Ketrik turned haughtily, began his stroll back to the main avenues. He felt the Martian's puzzled gaze upon him, but did not look back. He did not look back until 10 minutes later, when he had the eerie sensation of being followed. He spotted the man at once, undoubtedly a special. Tall, cold-eyed, a bit too leisurely of manner. Ketrik smiled grimly and entered a shop. The man followed. Ketrik came out, and the special was just the correct distance behind. At the next loading platform, Ketrik purchased a ticket, waited until one of the monocars dropped down from the single overhead track. He entered the car, walked the length of it, and exited on the opposite side. He hurried across an areaway and lost himself in the crowd waiting for the opposite-bound car, which just then hove into view. The simple ruse worked. He boarded this car, and there was no sign of his pursuer. Dusk was fast coming upon the city when he again made his way to Thurlow's shop. His mind still wrestled with the problem of the electronic wall and how to get beyond it. He immediately discarded the idea of an aerocopter in the dead of night. There would surely be detector rays. Here was a problem that called for planning and patience. And something else vaguely bothered him. A vision intruded upon his thoughts, annoying but persistent. The vision of a girl's face, lovely and golden. End of section 4.